What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the AFC North grading the NFL Draft 2019. We've got a bit of a marathon going on. We've got two more to do after this one. Probably going to take a break after this video, watch Game of Thrones, come back, do the East, and then maybe have to wait till the South in the morning, but we'll see. Quick reminder, please do hit that like button if you enjoy. Easiest way to support the channel and share my content right there. So let's get into it here, going alphabetically. The Cincinnati Bengals, who came away with what I said was the best pick in the first round. Some other good picks in there as well. Dwayne Haskins et Oliver come to mind. But Jonah Williams to this team, not only is this exceptional value, this is a stellar player I see as a 10-year borderline all-pro type of talent, something like Joe Staley. The Cincinnati Bengals have been looking for that franchise tackle since Andrew Whitworth has been gone here. And they have really seen a drop-off in their offensive play. You know, if you think back 3 years ago when they had Whitworth and they were giving Andy Dalton time to throw and running the ball effectively, Andy Dalton was an MVP candidate. So to get a steal like this at 11, Jonah Williams, really going to help this offense, going to help all of those linemen improve as well. I thought that was a slam dunk pick, and it was going to be hard for Cincinnati to have a bad draft after that pick right there. But they looked like they may have been heading in that direction after taking Drew Sample in the second. I get it. They need a tight end. This was their guy. Now, he's athletic, but he's a guy that you're projecting a lot of growth. Did not really produce at Washington. I had a lot of tight ends ahead of Drew Sample, 10 to be exact. So he could turn out and could end up being worth the pick, but would have much rather gone with, like, Michael Dieter to really beef up that offensive line, grab a corner maybe. Just thought there was a lot of value. Even another tight end that I like more, like a Jay Sternberger or Foster Moreau, I thought would have been a better pick. But we'll see how he pans out. Then they took a linebacker in the third. Really, really good pick here. Jermaine Pratt has that ideal size at like 6'1 or 6'2", 240. He's really athletic. He should be this team's best linebacker, and I expect to start day one. And if he had kind of a Darius Leonard type of impact on this Bengals defense, giving them that fast, big-bodied guy in the middle of that defense, he reminds me a lot of Nigel Bradham for the Philadelphia Eagles. So I thought that was a fantastic pick, filling a huge need there in the third round. And then they grab a quarterback in the fourth, Ryan Finley. This is really good value. I had a second-round grade on him. Now, I don't think he'll ever take Andy Dalton's job. I don't think they're going to see him as the future. But Dalton, a guy who has now had 2 seasons cut short for injury. They've kind of seen multiple seasons fall off a cliff now without a good backup quarterback. And no, A.J. McCarron was never a good backup quarterback. I'm talking about Ryan Finley as a guy that could pull a Nick Foles. And if this team did get rolling, I have mentioned this being a sleeper team for me and a potential playoff team that people are really sleeping on. If, say, week 13, something happens to Andy Dalton, I think Ryan Finley can step in and definitely suffice. He's got a bit of a gunslinger mentality. I think he could pair really well with these weapons and now an improved offensive line. So I loved that pick. And then at the 23rd pick in the fourth round, they grabbed Renell Wren. Now, he made the cut for my sleepers video. Really athletic guy. He does not have to start. Cincinnati actually has some pretty good interior line, but they have questions down the road. Really no one in like 3 years that you see as an impact there, assuming Geno Atkins, eventually drops off in play, though he is just a star. But I like Renell Wren being able to learn from Geno Atkins, being a fourth guy in that rotation. And I thought that was a really good pick there in the fourth. And then another really excellent pick here, Michael Jordan. He may or may not start. I mean, it's not saying much to become a starter for the Bengals. But what I like about him is for a offensive line that has so many questions, and really at right tackle, right guard, and then down the road, left tackle becoming a question, left guard as well. You got Jonah Williams in there to play one of those tackle positions, but Michael Jordan, a really athletic guy, was moved all around at Ohio State, did produce. So if he ended up starting somewhere on this offensive line this year, would not surprise me. I thought this was excellent value here at the end of the fourth round. Never going to hate on a team that needs offensive linemen taking a talented one in day 3. And then you got to go to the 6th round, Travion Williams. Kind of a straight line guy, a little similar to Christine Michael, but kind of a home run hitter, physical runner, so I like that pick. Then you grab Deshaun Davis out of Auburn, another athletic linebacker. He's more of a developmental guy. I don't see him making an impact, but should be a special teamer right away. I think he'll make this team. It's a pretty thin linebacker room. And then one of the better steals here in the 6th or 7th round, Rodney Anderson. Now, he falls because of injury. If he was healthy, he would have been a 3rd-round pick. I believe that. He is just kind of like a poor man's Joe Mixon is what we've called him. Compared him to Spencer Ware as well, so excellent fit here to come in and back up Joe Mixon. He doesn't have to have a heavy workload, but when Joe Mixon comes out the field or he misses a game here or there due to injury, because Mixon has missed some games, I think Rodney Anderson's going to plug right in and this offense won't miss a beat. If you have Joe Mixon in fantasy football, make sure you have Rodney Anderson. I think he will beat out Travion Williams in a heartbeat because he is just more talented, was just available here because of injury. But again, he won't be a feature back, so injury I don't think is going to be a problem in that role. So I love this pick here for the Bengals. Excellent value. And then Jordan Brown, cornerback out of South Dakota State. Kind of a long corner. I don't know if he'll make the team. He's fine. Decent pick. Gave it a B. They needed cornerback help. So the Bengals here are going to get an A. Came close to an A+. You know, I didn't love the Drew Sample pick. I thought there was better tight ends available. Could have waited or gone other positions there. And then also, you know, I really thought this team should have walked away with a corner in the first 4 rounds or so. This was a pretty deep cornerback class. Outside of William Jackson, they don't really have any long-term answers at corner. So a little disappointed to not get a good corner out of this class. But they did fill a lot of needs, and I think this team's shaping up real nicely to compete in the AFC North, which a lot of people are going to say sounds crazy. Really excited for my deep dive of this team to really dive in and talk about why I think the Bengals are going to be a sleeper team in 2019. So then we've got the Browns, who are the opposite of a sleeper team. This team has all of the Super Bowl hype in the world. They're like 12-1 to win the Super Bowl. Look, I think they'll be good, and this is going to be another interesting deep dive when we get to them. Might have to wait a little while because we do go through by my power rankings. But 12-1 is a little crazy, considering it's the Cleveland Browns. They won like, what, 5, 6, 7 games last year? Now they do have reason to be optimistic, but let's talk about their draft. So they gave up a 1st and a 3rd for Odell Beckham. You do that trade 10 times out of 10. A+ making that move, taking advantage of a general manager that seems to think he's stuck in the 80s and doesn't realize that Odell Beckham is a little bit better than a nose tackle and a rotational 3rd or 4th edge rusher and Jabril Peppers. So they get the code to the vault. They take everything from New York and steal that in the 1st, and then they steal Greedy Williams in the 2nd. This team just keeps on, I don't know if you want to call it getting lucky. I would give a ton of credit to John Dorsey here. Was critical of his draft last year. He proved me wrong, and he continues to really dominate here early, getting Greedy Williams, who I thought should have gone in the top 12 of this draft. Loved the quote from him. It's basically what we've been saying for the last 3 months. You know, how are you going to criticize Greedy Williams because he can't tackle? Who was the last great corner in the NFL that we said, oh, but he can't really tackle? You know, he's not very good. There's a lot of great corners in this league that have issues with tackling. You're not paid to tackle when you're a corner. You're paid to cover, and Greedy Williams can absolutely cover with length and speed and good technique. And this was a huge need for them. That number 2 corner opposite of Denzel Ward, who's a total stud. I mean, my God, this pass rush now with these corners, look out. I did think that secondary, if there was going to be a downfall on that defense, it was going to be the secondary, and I definitely think less so now getting Greedy Williams. And to be honest, that 12-1 Super Bowl bet, looking a little less preposterous getting Greedy Williams here, shoring up one of 2 huge holes on this roster. But the other big hole I had on this team was offensive line. And I get it. You had an awesome offensive line last year, top 5. And if you can repeat that, it is not a weakness, it is a strength. But the fact of the matter is, we've kind of made fun of this team for it, but it's a reality. You cannot expect to have perfect health on the offensive line. From left tackle to right guard, I kid you not, no player missed a snap last year. That is not going to happen again in a consecutive season. Time proves that year after year after year. And this team has done nothing to, add depth to the offensive line, and they traded away their starting right guard, who happened to be the highest rated guard in the NFL last year, in Kevin Zeitler. They're asking a rookie last year to take his place. So I do think the offensive line is going to be much worse this year, and they did nothing here to address that. Grabbing Sion Takitaki, a linebacker out of BYU who I had an undrafted free agent grade in the 3rd. You grab another safety, a good player, Sheldrick Redwine, safety out of Miami in the 4th round. And then Mac Wilson, just saying a couple names today on this marathon, a couple tongue twisters. Really good value here. Now, I was not nearly as high on Mac Wilson as most people. You know, I had a 3rd round grade on him. Not a super athlete. I compare him to Jake Ryan. Going to keep everything in front of him, be a sure tackler. He should start for this team, at least in base packages. You still got Christian Kirksey there, Joe Schobert. So some good linebackers there. And then you take a kicker in the 5th round. I'm actually for it. I think this team, you know, has room to draft a kicker. And then finally, you draft a guard in the 6th round. So I like the values there, other than Sion Takitaki. If they use that 3rd round pick on a starting caliber lineman, because there were guys available like Connor McGovern. I can't remember when Yadni Kajust went, but someone like that, or a Michael Jordan, who we just talked about for the Bengals, someone like that at that 3rd pick, and I would have been really excited. I mean, I'm pretty excited already about this draft, but I do think there is a very, very good chance that, you know, Greg Robinson is not as good at left tackle, that Chris Hubbard at right tackle, who's been kind of a career swingman, is going to be a bit of a liability, that Corbett might not be as good as you think, or even more likely that one of those guys gets hurt, and then you all of a sudden have a really weak link that could only get worse as, you know, the first link kind of breaks. So I do think that that's going to be, if there is a downfall of the Cleveland Browns, it's going to be that offensive line, which I'm going to get criticized for, and I understand that because it was such a good offensive line last year, but you cannot just expect that to copy and paste to the next year. Greg Robinson, you know, it'd be easier to list the teams that he has not played for than the teams that he has. I get that he had a good year last year, but hard to really expect that from him. And then the injury thing. So I am giving this grade an A, because you get Odell Beckham and Greedy Williams. You now have like LSU North there in Cleveland. And with Baker Mayfield, this team is poised to win this division, but those expectations are pretty crazy. I would have liked to see them get another offensive lineman in a class that I thought was better than the last few years at offensive line. I think they missed an opportunity to get a good player and add some depth there that they are going to end up regretting here, because it's not like there's any free agents that they can bring in to improve that. So anyway, let's move on. The Baltimore Ravens. Very, you know, safe draft. I did not love it, though, but let's go through here. They take Marquise Brown. We've bumped that grade up to a B. We did criticize it close to draft night there. I love Marquise Brown. You do have those injury concerns. Shades of Brashad Perriman here, who could not stay healthy. I'm not saying that's going to happen to Marquise Brown. I hope he stays healthy, and I hope he develops a great rapport with Lamar Jackson, and they can have success together. Personally, I doubt that that is going to happen. Marquise Brown, if you're going to take him in the 1st round, I want him running deep, using that great route running speed. He's really good at leveraging his body to get open down the field, outside the numbers, and I can't think of a worse starting quarterback in the NFL at throwing accurate footballs outside the numbers than Lamar Jackson. Some people think he can improve on that. I don't. History would tell you that quarterbacks don't really improve their accuracy too much over time, and he's got a long way to go. I actually would have preferred like an A.J. Brown here, who's going to help you run block. You know this team's going to have to run the ball more successfully to continue to have the success they had last year. Brown, a bigger target. When Lamar Jackson does spray the ball, he's going to have a bigger catch radius to go and get the thing. So I don't hate the pick. I think if you take, you know, who your quarterback is out of the picture, that's a great pick. I think he's worth the 1st round pick. They need a wide receiver. But when you factor in how this team is going to need to win, I just don't know exactly how it's going to work. He is going to give you some really nice catch and run ability with those short passes. So it'll be interesting to see how it works out. I do give it a B. Nice high upside pick. But then you got to go and wait till the 3rd round. Jalen Ferguson. A lot of people liked him. 1st round grades. This was a good call by me. I did not see him go in 1st or 2nd round. He just does not have the athletic upside. Now, if he can put on some weight, I could see him having a good power element to his game, but he's going to have to develop that. He was able to get by at a lower level of competition, but just not a lot of explosiveness. You know, maybe he can turn into like Zadarius Smith, who this team really groomed, and I do think he is a good replacement in that role. So a good pick here, a good scheme fit as a B, but you're not really getting that impact edge rush presence that you're losing in both Suggs and Zadarius Smith. So there is going to be a pretty big drop-off in pass rush here, unless you can get like Tyus Bowser to like totally emerge next year. Then they took Miles Boykin, bigger bodied wide receiver. I did not really like this pick. In terms of value and what this team needs, it's a good pick. Philosophically, a big bodied athletic wide receiver on the outside. But again, I don't have confidence in Lamar Jackson to develop a wide receiver on the outside. So these picks get a B philosophically, but I don't believe that they're going to work out because I don't believe in Lamar Jackson. So, would this team have been better off drafting like a Blake Cashman or Ja'Kai Polite, or, taking a risk on a more impactful defensive player to get this defense back to greatness, or maybe a running back? I know they have Mark Ingram, but he hasn't exactly been the model of health or consistency over his career. Who's going to be your star running back after that? Or offensive line, you could really beef up and make this an elite run game. So, philosophically, good picks, good values all across the board here for these first through third round picks. But I just don't really believe that these are going to turn out to be good players. But then you got Justin Hill, first pick in the 4th round, excellent value, good compliment, can kind of be that, third down receiving back to Mark Ingram. I like him as a player a lot. Thought that was a good pick. Then you do grab an offensive lineman. Pretty solid value here. Ben Powers out of Oklahoma in the 4th round. But I don't know if he's going to start. I loved this pick, Amon Marshall. But again, not going to be a huge impact. I think you're probably going to move him to safety. But he's super high upside, smart player. I think, he could turn into a really high-level safety down the road. Then Dalen Mack, he should be in that rotation up front. He's built very similarly to Michael Pierce at like 6 feet, 320 pounds or something like that. So he'll learn from him, be a good fit there. And then Trace McSorley. So who better to back up your uber elite athlete, inaccurate quarterback than Trace McSorley, who has very similar traits to Lamar Jackson. So you can plug him right in there and run the same stuff as you are with Lamar Jackson. So B- overall. Like, they didn't have any bad picks, but I'm not walking away from this draft feeling like they're entering next year with some impact rookies and, feeling any confidence at all that they're going to be able to repeat as division champions, especially if you look at what the Bengals and Browns have done, and the Steelers, coming back pretty strong next year, I think. So, it was a fine draft. This team does, kind of draft like this. They take guys that they believe in, and they're going to develop them. And I think 2-3 years down the road, we see them make impacts. But I don't know if you're getting many impacts right now. So then we got the Pittsburgh Steelers. I did not love the move up for Devin Bush. I already thought 10 was a little high for him. I thought, 14 to 20, so you're not going to criticize it too much, but to give up a 2nd round pick, a future 3rd to go up, I don't know. I didn't completely love it. Didn't hate it. Get a really impactful middle linebacker, modern linebacker, can go sideline to sideline, all that, stop all these annoying modern offenses, and he is an absolute leader. So he's going to look really good in a Steelers jersey, and you're probably not going to regret making this move, and that's why I gave it a B. But then you do have to wait till the 3rd round. You gave up a 2nd. And they killed this pick right here. And pat on the back for myself. We called this back in my last mock draft that, what better player to replace Antonio Brown with? This is the pick that they got for Antonio Brown. Than a guy that has very similar traits to Antonio Brown coming out. Not a burner, but uber quick, runs great routes, high attention to detail guy. Might have some attention drops. But can develop to be a consistent hands catcher. But you love how this guy separates. He was one of the best separators coming out, and he is a perfect fit here because you think about who they have. They got Juju, who's kind of that bigger body guy. He runs good routes, but he's not an elite separator. And then you have James Washington, who's still we're trying to figure out if he can play or not. He's kind of a jump ball guy, kind of an awkward player. I see him as more of an outside wide receiver. I don't know. We're still trying to figure out if he can play. So they needed a guy that can come in and get open for Big Ben and replace that void left by Antonio Brown. Obviously, you're not going to replace Antonio Brown, but this was just a no-brainer pick, and it's the pick we made for them on like Monday or whenever we did that mock draft. So I loved that pick, one of the best picks in the draft in my opinion. And then Justin Lane in the 3rd round, good value here. I don't think he's ready to start, but he does have elite athleticism, and that's a big need for the Steelers at corner. Then they grab Benny Snell, running back out of Kentucky. Pretty similar player to James Conner coming out. Big, tough, physical guy. We'll see if he can do the same thing that James Conner did in terms of developing, good receiving ability, as Snell didn't really show that in Kentucky, but fits that mold that they like there in the 220-plus pound running back. I don't think he's going to take James Conner's job, but a good security blanket there in the running back room. Then Zach Gentry, tight end out of Michigan, a little oversized, doesn't really block, kind of like a poor man's Kyle Rudolph, who I already don't really like. So, fine, whatever, you like him, go ahead and take him. Trying to replace that big body dude in Jesse James, I kind of get it. Would have rather taken Caleb Wilson, but not the end of the world. Then in the 6th round, they take Sutton Smith, one of my sleepers. Interesting, he ends up in a 3-4 scheme, because he's probably now going to play 3-4 outside linebacker, which is intriguing because he was such a good pass rusher in college. If he can find a way to be that productive, or at least half as productive at the NFL, he's going to be a star because he was just dominant as an edge rusher. I saw him switching at 6'2", 233 to an off-ball linebacker. So I see him as kind of a nickel package guy that you're going to bring in, line up on the edge, but you are probably going to drop him into coverage a lot, and he's going to be an excellent kind of piece for this zone blitz heavy scheme, and it's going to be intriguing. I think it's a good fit. I liked him a little better as making that full-on switch to an off-ball linebacker, and then at times using him on the edge, as opposed to here where he is going to be essentially a full-on edge rusher. He's kind of like a Shaquem Griffin in that way. But anyway, they took Isaiah Buggs next. If he developed into a starting caliber interior defensive lineman, he's got to gain a little bit of weight, but Pittsburgh's done a really good job developing these guys. He doesn't have to start right away. At a 4th to a 5th round value on him, he should pan out pretty well here in Pittsburgh. And then they grab a linebacker out of Akron, fine player, but all right. And then Derwin Gray, kind of a versatile developmental prospect, like that pick out of Maryland. I had said in my mock draft that they could use kind of a 6th guy to develop, because they have their starting lineup set, but the future of that offensive line is starting to look a little more shaky as these guys are getting older. So I like that pick. Still just a 7th rounder, might not turn into be anything, but still a good pick. So a B+ for the Pittsburgh Steelers. My main concern is they're not really walking away, upgrading their cornerback situation. Unless Justin Lane can become an impact starter. I did like that pick, but I think giving up that 2nd round pick could prove costly if Justin Lane can't really play. But I do think they'll be able to get over it. I just thought this was a deep cornerback class, and they could have capitalized on that a little better, because that's a major concern for me. But we'll see how good Devin Bush can be. And if he is an all-pro linebacker like his potential indicates, then you're definitely not going to bat an eye at that move. So solid B+ draft for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And that is going to do it for the AFC North. Please, guys, hit that like button, and we'll see you guys next after Game of Thrones in the AFC East. So peace out, guys. We'll see you later.